Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beyond Grad Show. Today is going to be a solo episode where I'm going to talk about five tripwire questions that are asked in interviews and how to navigate them. You would see me refer to this Google Doc here on the left, where I am sharing the frameworks and an example answer. The reason why I'm going through this doc is something that is available to everybody who wants to kind of get improve their interviewing. And these are like the 10 most common questions that are being asked in an interview setting. And you can download this document along with my best resources by going to beyondgrad.com, beyondgrad.com. And on the homepage, you just put your name and email and hit the take me to the vault button. And it will give you an access to a Google Drive full of resources, of which in the interviewing folders, you will find the common interview questions and how to navigate them exactly. Now, anybody who's joining us live, feel free to kind of come in and ask me questions or share any of your experiences by going through the comment section of the platform that you're joining us from. All right, without further ado, let me start by highlighting the five questions that we are going to cover today. So that's the tell me about yourself question. Why do you want to work here? What are your salary expectations? Excuse me. Are you interviewing anywhere else? And what is your biggest weakness? These are questions that are generally asked in the screening round, whether it is a recruiter who is doing it or a hiring manager who is doing it. They are trying to make sure that they align you with the role that they are hiring for. Now, tell me about yourself is a question that can be asked in any of the interview rounds, and same with the other questions as well. But the main reason that I wanted to share these specific ones is that they are most commonly asked and they kind of tend to trip everybody. So even my mentees who come into the program who are top professionals at one of some of the best companies in the world, they still come in and get tripped up on these questions. So today I'm going to share the exact recipe, ingredient, whatever you can call it, to create an answer and then go through it in an interview setting. All right. So the first one is tell me about yourself. Now, this is a question that gets most people stuck because they don't know what to do. They don't know whether to respond with their resume. They don't know whether to respond with how they fit to this role. There's a little bit of a confusion here. I would ask this question always in my interview because the answer would immediately tell me what level of work has gone into this person prepping for this call. Like, how much have they really dug deep into the preparation? One thing I ask all my mentees to do is to think about the question behind the question. Like, what is the question behind any of the interview queries that you are going to be asked? Now, in the tell me about yourself part, the question behind the question is, are you fit for this role? Do you have the right personality? Have you done the work to kind of share your career in a succinct way with me? So, how do beginners generally answer this question? They repeat their resume, they maybe share the top highlights. The intermediate way is to share specific experiences. So, hey, here are the two experiences that apply for this role. Pretty good. What I feel is that this is a opportunity for you to share a narrative story of your career. So this is not a question that will give you the job. It can definitely reject you from the job, but it will not give you the job. What it can do is set yourself up to be completely aligned with the role and have the interviewer ask follow-up questions or dig into a particular part of your career. The way to do that is using a three-act story format. This is a very common three-act framework that a lot of movies use. We are going to use something similar to that, which is your career can be broken down into three acts. And I don't want you to go all the way to, your degree. If you have 10 years of experience, you don't know need to go all the way back there. You need to start your story impactfully. So act 1 could be, hey, I enjoyed doing A, so that led me to pursue B. Let's notice that act in this example answer that I have. In this case, I'm using an example of a data engineer interviewing for one of the Mag 7 companies. So these are Meta, Apple, Amazon, Google, Netflix, Nvidia now is a Magnificent 7 company, and I think Microsoft. So those are the 7 companies, and I'm just using that as an example. You can use this wherever you want. So Act 1, I enjoyed doing A, so that led me to pursue B. Essentially, I am saying, hey, I always had a passion for engineering and chose to master in electronics and telecommunication. While pursuing my bachelor's, I followed Wired and Inc. magazines and started to share the importance of data that will play in the decision making and strategy for all industries. So this might be somebody who is starting out. So I'm that's the example that I'm using, early career, 3 years into their career. So it's okay for them to kind of start even at where they got their education from. Let's say you are somebody who has 15 years of experience, you can just directly jump to, hey, for the start of my career, I pursued automotive engineering and I worked at a top automotive engineering company, let's say GM. At GM, I did internal combustion engines, where I realized that the whole automotive vehicle market is going into the electrified vehicles domain. And that's what I pursued for the next few years of my career. That's your act 1. Basically, I loved doing A, so that led me to pursue B. Next, you talk about what you fell in love with and what you achieved. Let's say this is your immediate past role. So, in this case, this person can talk about, in the last 3 years, I worked in data engineering field. My biggest achievement was working with Apple's sales team to reduce pre-sales discovery journey by X% and improve closing rate by Y%. How we did it was evaluating spending data, applying statistical modeling, such as leveraging Python or creating dashboards that helped the sales team. Again, I may not be exactly from the data domain, so you will know once you are in the domain the things that you can use. They also presented pertinent information to the sales teams using Tableau. It was an exciting project, and I love to see my work being part of an increasing a unicorn company's revenue. I know this position will require Python skills, Tableau skills, essentially data manipulation, data engineering, and we specifically use those in the project. So let me take a step back. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show what I'm passionate about from the lens that speaks directly to this role. I talk about impact metrics, so pre-sales discovery journey by X% and improving close rate by Y%. So I share that I know the business value of the work that I'm doing. I love data engineering. I have used all of these tools to help this company. And I know this position will require insert keywords, and we specifically use those in the project. This is the meat of this answer. The Act 2. That's when I fell in love with C and I achieved D. Finally, Act 3 is now I'm ready to do what needs to be done for this particular company. In this example, it can say, so now I'm excited to learn more about tech hardware OEM world and leverage my data engineering skills to aid in the decision making for this company. In, let's say you are again using that automotive industry example, you can say, for example, that I know in this advanced engineering role, I have to bring all of my systems engineering into perspective. So right from the V development cycle, what the early phase would look like, what the middle execution phase would look like, and what would prototyping and testing would look like. I have the experience doing that. Now I'm focusing on the testing role that is part of this team. and we'll be bringing that systems engineering perspective into it as well. So you see how using the three act framework, you are able to essentially work through these questions. I'm going to take a pause. Today I had some tech issues, so I'm going to just go to LinkedIn and check whether the stream is going live or not. So just give me a brief moment here. Okay. Yeah, I think it's going on. All right, perfect. There is a 1 minute lag always in the live session, so you will see how I'm talking about this, and it will show up there. All right. So let's continue on. This is the tell me about yourself question. Now I want to focus on the next part, which is why do you want to work here? Again, let's take a moment. If you are watching this as a recording, I want you to pause this and consider what is the question behind the question in this case? Why do you want to work here? What are they trying to know? I'll give you 10 seconds to kind of, people who are watching this live, I'll give you 10 seconds to kind of think about that. If you want, you can add it in the comment section as well. So anytime you have a question during this live session, or you wanted to bring something up, you can just add it as a comment on whichever platform that you're joining us from, whether that's YouTube or LinkedIn. The question behind the question of why do you want to work here is essentially, do you have the right skills for this position? Do you really care about this company, or are you looking for just any random company out there and a random job? So you're trying to align yourself extremely well with this company and this role in particular. So a beginner, and this is a little facetious, a beginner would answer it as, I just need a job. A intermediate person would answer that I love that you do Y and I like the role. So they align themselves with what the company is doing. An advanced way to answer this is to give three specific reasons. So just like we had Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 in the tell me about yourself question, the three specific things, all of this applies to the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is essentially, we as humans have a tendency to grasp things in threes. Anything beyond that is just a little bit more overwhelming for us to internalize as a listener specifically. So in this case, when we are sharing three reasons, we are able to kind of get a good surface area. So the three reasons could be a personal passion for the company or the product, B, reason why you would enjoy working in this particular role, and C, why would you be successful there. So once you have these ingredients, A, B, and C, that's the recipe is, I would love to work here because of A, B, and C reasons. Then you kind of dig deep into one particular one. Point B is of particular interest to me. And then you conclude the answer by making it about that. So let's take an examples. I didn't remember that this was an automotive engineering example and it works well with the tell me about yourself. But let's take an example of an automotive engineer interviewing at one of the top OEMs. So OEM meaning GM, Ford, Tesla. In this case, I think if I remember correctly, I had chosen Tesla as like the idea. So there's a question here that I'll bring up quickly. So they ask, would you share a link to this document after the session is over? The link will be in the description, YouTube description, but it's very simple. You just go to beyondgrad.com. When you go to beyondgrad.com on the homepage, just put in your name, email, and take me to the vault. Once you confirm your email, it will give you a Google Drive worth of my best resources. And one of them is this one here. You'll get probably 18 or 19 other resources, if I remember correctly. So that's the easiest way, beyondgrad.com, and you should be able to see this. page. So, coming back to why do you want to work here? We talked about the three ingredients you need, like three specific reasons why you want to work at this company. And then I shared a particular recipe for it. So here's an example. I'll be reading through it, but at the end of every paragraph, I'll share why what I'm doing here. So you always try want to take a 3 second pause. You want to smile. That those are some of the key points in an interview setting. Is letting your personality shine through, smiling, being enthusiastic, and always take time, right? Speed is not a competence in the interview setting. Specificity with the role and how you communicate that specificity is the main credibility marker. So in this case, hey, I would love to work at, let's say, Tesla for three reasons. First, you are the only US company that has cracked the code on electric vehicle technology. Second, I can make a huge contribution given my experience in advanced powertrain research using 1D simulation. And third, I'm fascinated by the company's entrepreneurial nature. I'll take a pause here. You see, I shared all the three reasons right up front. I shared about them, like they have cracked the code on electric vehicle technology, which is true to a major extent. Second, I talked about how I fit to the role using my experience. And then finally, a unique thing about why you would be successful there, which is you're fascinated by the entrepreneurial nature of the company. And then you dig into one of the reasons, right? I chose the last one. The last point is really important to me. Based on my discussions with director of X and senior engineer of Y, I love that the company puts ownership on the business unit and particularly team members. The confidence the culture imparts in allowing technical people to achieve business goals fascinates me. As you can see, I played an entrepreneurial role in X and Y, and I look forward to bringing those skills and honing them at Tesla. So, pause here again. Each and everything is a little bit important, and I'll just share why so that you can incorporate. So, first, I talked about based on my discussions with two people. It shows that I have done the work. I have actually talked to people about why I work there and why is it important. Then I'm bringing out certain things that can only be shared once you have insider information. So the company puts ownership on the business unit and particularly the team members. Then I talked about why that fascinates me. And then finally, I share how I align with that fascination. So it's not just me sharing a reason, it is sharing a reason and then showing proof as to why, for that unique thing about this company, I have experience and how I will be a great fit there. So that's what I look forward to honing at the OEM. When I think about these three reasons, being a leader in electric vehicle technology, my skills in advanced engineering, my passion for taking ownership, fills me with excitement for this opportunity. And I appreciate you discussing the role with me today. So that kind of summarizes the three reasons again, which is why do you want to work here? These are the three reasons. This one particular reason fascinates me. Here's my experience and how that aligns with it. Finally, again, wrapping up with the three reasons why you want to work there and showing excitement for the opportunity. Awesome. I'll take a pause here to see if there are any questions that people have. There's always going to be a lag in the live session. So it's okay if I start to continue speaking on the next part. Make sure that you add a comment in there for me to kind of then pick up as a question. All right, I'm going to continue. So going back to the five questions, that five tripwire questions we've talked about, tell me about yourself. and we've talked about why do you want to work here. The reason why I'm using this doc as a way to do this session is because this doc is available for you to download. It is part of my Google Drive that you get access to if you sign up on the homepage of my website, beyondgrad.com. Sign up using your name and email. Remember to confirm your email if this is the first time you are signing up on my website, and then you'll get access to a Google Drive filled with resources. So let me show you what that Google Drive looks like. So this is the Google Drive. So it has multiple folders, job search strategy, resume, LinkedIn, portfolio, networking, and each of them has like really good resources. So this is the 7-day interview mastery email course. So one day a day, 7-day course. These are interview tools and strategies, AI prompts, challenging types of interviews, etc. So you can go and find all of these resources at beyondgrad.com. All right, salary expectations. This is a very unique one. So how many of you would have answered the salary question in the first interview itself? Like, okay, this is the amount that I'm interviewing for, or this is the range that I'm interviewing for. And sometimes, if you're already, let's say, in a job and you just wanted to kind of filter through the companies as well, you can definitely name drop your price here and see what the appetite is for the other team. What I would suggest, especially for big companies who have the ability to level you accurately throughout the process and not just, okay, we are looking for a senior engineer, but maybe they are okay with a staff engineer because their budget, they have budget for it. So whenever you are doing a, whenever you're answering the salary question, I would push that salary question down the line. I would want to understand what is the role, what are my responsibilities going to be, and what would it take for me to fulfill those responsibilities. So, a good way to kind of push this conversation down the line is to kind of say this simple thing, which is, hey, I want to ensure we are the right fit for each other and know more about what is expected in this role. If we are the right fit, I'm happy to discuss compensation down the line. You want to say this with a smile and confidence. If they push for an answer, sometimes that is a strategy where a recruiter will push you to give a response. You can either hold your ground and kind of continue to push it forward, or you can say the following, which is, my research shows that this company and its competitors pay between $X and $Y for top performers with these skills and this work experience. With my experience, I would expect to be in this range. So you see how I'm doing a few things here. One, I'm sharing that I have done my research, that this company and its competitors pay between X and Y. I'm also highlighting skills and experience for this role. So I'm making sure, oops, I should be back. And then I'm sharing the numbers, and that both in combination will still help you be applicable while providing a range for what you're expecting. Know that whenever you provide a range, you are most likely going to get an offer which is between the bottom side of the range that you have and the middle portion, right? Because now you are anchoring with that lower number and not really the higher number. So you want to make sure that you choose your target well. What I would say is push this as further down in the interview process as you can. So research is important, right? Research in this case, how we've done X and Y research is you can go to Glassdoor, levels.fyi, salary.com. You want to go to multiple sources to check what the salaries are for that geographical location, your years of experience and the skills that you have. You need to research that, find the low end, the high end, the median salary range, and screenshot this so that you have that backup document where you show that you have done your research. You are calling out the company and its competitors. So they are negotiating not just with you, but they are negotiating with other competitors in the industry as well. Like I said, let X will be the number that you will be anchoring with. So let X be a great scenario for you and Y be the excellent scenario. It is okay to give the lower range as high as X because of the next section, which is you are showing that you are one of the top performers in the market right now. So you're not anchoring yourself with an average performer, you're a top performer. And once you insert the specific skills and experience, and you share that you have created an impact in that position, you will be able to prove that you are not the average performer and a top performer, which is why if you go back to that X anchor, it will be appropriate for you. So these are the two ways. You can either push this question down the line, say, hey, I'm happy to talk compensation once I know more about the role and once we are the right fit for each other. Or if push comes to shove, you can say, I my research shows that this company and its competitors pay dollar X to dollar Y for top performers with these skills and this experiences. Based on my experience and all the impact that I will share with you today, I would see myself being at the higher side of that range. That's it. Again, smile, confidence. That is the key of answering difficult questions. All right. We've covered three questions so far. So we've covered tell me about yourself, where we did Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Then we did why do you want to work here, where we talked about three specific reasons and then diving deep into a single one. Then we looked at salary expectations. So you can either push it down the line or you can share your research with them. Now, there is another question that gets asked often in the interview process is whether you are interviewing anywhere else. This can again be a tripwire question because if you don't respond with confidence with something that you've already practiced, then it will show that they have some kind of a leverage in the system. You may not be interviewing with anybody else, or you may not know how to navigate that tough situation. And all of these are credibility markers in the interview process. They make or break your interviewing at this company. So, how do you answer? Are you interviewing anywhere else? First, always think about the question behind the question. Why do they ask this question? It could be to understand the timeline that you have, could be understand what kind of leverage you have in the process. Are you attractive to other companies? Do they need to move in quickly to get you onboarded? Those are the types of questions behind the questions they're looking to answer. So ideally, we would all kind of get this question and say, yes, I am in demand. I still like what you guys are doing. So if you have a role for me, I would like for the process to move faster. This is kind of what you want to answer. You just need a little bit more tact in answering that question. So I would, at this example, at this point, say, and this is an example of a top professional, let's say a senior engineer or a senior marketer. It doesn't matter. The reason why I'm saying that, it doesn't matter exactly what your field is for these types of screening and behavioral type questions. It more matters as to what your strategy is and the confidence with which you deliver these. So I'm at different stages with three companies in the gaming and e-commerce space. Again, the reason why I'm saying that is, first, I'm saying different stages. So I'm not being specific with them, but giving them some information. I'm calling out the number of companies that I'm interviewing with, and I'm also calling out the space like gaming and e commerce. I'm doing that especially if the company is in the same space, because then they are competing with the other companies, so they are competitors. So I want to do that to kind of let them know that, look, I have leverage in the process. Then I'm validating that this is the right place for me. So this opportunity at company C is extremely exciting because what you are doing to leverage AI for voice for text generation. So one of the companies that I have enjoyed working with lately is called Whisperflow, where you basically talk and then it converts voice into text. It's been quite popular. At the same time, there are other companies who are trying to do that as well. So you can talk about why you are excited about that company. What I then also mention is that is a great fit with my background in GRC compliance. And as the company grows, this function is going to have a critical impact. GRC is related to government regulations. So as AI is going to go more stronger, or AI is going to be more widespread, there are going to be more and more regulations and compliances that come in that industry. And if you are somebody who will be able to get themselves into the ground floor, then that's the advantage that you bring to the table. So I'm not only giving them an indication of how many companies that I'm applying or interviewing with, I'm also continuing to kind of just push the baton forward, saying, look, I am interested and I'm aligned. Let's get to the next stage. So I'm interested, I'm aligned, I have experience, I have impact, all the things that you can do to continue to move this thing forward. A great, if you get a follow up after this, is can you name the companies or give us more information about who you are interviewing with or which stage you are at with them. There are two ways to go from here. So there's the fork in the road. One fork can be, hey, I'm at the final stages with this obvious company and expecting an offer soon. I'm really excited about this particular role that we are discussing. So, if this is a right fit for each other, it would be good to move quickly through the process. Again, if we continue to feel that we are the right fit for each other. So, you can name the company and the stage that you are with if you want to kind of move things forward. So, I have seen in the past where, let's say somebody is interviewing at the top OEM of that industry, and there's a supplier where the supplier knows that they have less leverage than the top company. The supplier might move things fast and get you an offer to see if they can attract you to not choose that option but go with them. So I've seen it work this way in real life situations. The other thing you can say to maintain privacy, which is the second fork of the fork in the road, is I'm not at the liberty to discuss that. I would like to extend this company the same courtesy if another firm asks me this question. Let me continue to reiterate that the role at this company is one of my top choices because of the reasons I mentioned, and I'm excited to explore if we are the best fit for each other. So again, it is very clear, it is honest. So you are being very professional about this, and you continue to position yourself strategically. So they are competing with firms in the existing industry. You reiterate that you are excited for this role and you understand the role and how you fit with it. What you are essentially doing is sharing that you have leverage in the process. That's how you basically answer, are you interviewing elsewhere? Because you're trying to make sure that you can communicate professionally a tricky situation and that you have leverage outside of this company as well. And you're not somebody who's desperate for a job right away. It goes back to something I heard from a popular podcast. This podcast is called Smartless, and this is about three actors, Hollywood actors slash comedians, and they are interviewing other Hollywood actors and comedians. One of them, one of the hosts is Jason Bateman. Yeah, I hope I got his name right. He's the one who plays the lead actor and is the director of the show Ozark. And in that show, Jason Bateman talks about something called sexy indifference. He talks about how people who continue to get roles in auditions are people who have this quality called sexy indifference. They don't really care whether they get this role or not. They are somebody who is used to this, somebody who knows that if I don't get this role, I'll get the next one or the one after that. They have this quality called sexy indifference. And that is the quality that I feel is attractive in interviews as well. Be it the what are your salary expectations questions, or are you interviewing anywhere else? Or even to that matter, why do you want to work here? Like you are showing enthusiasm, you are being present, you would love to get this role, and it doesn't matter if you don't. You have that sexy indifference, and that kind of adds to your character, that kind of adds to your personality when you're going through the interview process. I know some of you might be hearing this and think, dude, where does auditions come into interviewing? Trust me, human psychology is the same everywhere. You want to be fit for the role, you want to seem attractive in the process, and you want to show that you have leverage. And those are all desirable traits in the candidate. All right, last one, which is going back to the five tripwire questions. The last one is, what is your biggest weakness? Again, if you are following this live, ask your questions. I already took one earlier. If you have questions about this interviewing questions that we are covering or something else, do there's a reason why you're showing up live, and that is an advantage. Make sure that you're asking that question. And if you don't want me to bring that question up so your name shows up or anything, just write anonymous in the bracket as you are writing that question right in the beginning. Anonymous, and then ask me your question. It will not show up in that live, at least not on LinkedIn, is where people are most worried about this. So feel free to ask your question here, and I'll move on to the last one, which is, what is your biggest weakness? Now, this is again a tripwire question because you don't really know how to answer this. Should I talk about a strength, hoodwinking as a weakness, or should I talk about an actual weakness, but I risk being out of contention? That's what, let's tackle that here. So, in here, normally a beginner would say, hey, I'm a perfectionist, right? Oh, my weakness is that I have this really strong advantage. That is the worst way to answer that question because people are looking for introspective skills and growth skills in every candidate. So the next one is, you can intermediate people share an actual weakness. That is good. The advanced way of doing this is to share an actual weakness plus sharing how you are working towards improving that or tracking it. So you essentially need three ingredients to crack this question. One is an actual weakness or a challenge you face. Other, how it impacts you and your work. And the third one is how you are correcting it. Avoid having that weakness being one of the core technical skills that you need in the job. I think it would be a big jump for you to to share. Now, this could be that it was a weakness in the past and you've already solved it. Technical skills should be solvable as much as possible before you enter your next job. Think about a soft skill that might have tripped you up. So, in this case, I'm sharing a personal example about procrastination. Somebody else can share stakeholder management, or somebody else can share um, maybe prioritization. So you see, this is not something that will not be applied at work. It will be applied at work. So you are kind of bringing in some tension there. What you're going to do is dissipate that tension by sharing examples of how you are working towards it and systems and processes that you're bringing on board to make sure that you are strengthening actually that part of you that you consider a weakness. So let's take an example and you will clearly see what I'm talking about. So again mentioned that take a 3-second pause and smile. Again, speed is not a competence. Specificity and delivery are the competence triggers in an interview setting. So I start by saying that true introspection is a skill I've had to develop in my career. It's not always easy to proactively introspect or ask for critical feedback, but it has been one of the most rewarding parts that I had to learn. So this is a little bit of a preamble where I'm setting up that, hey, this is something that I had to learn. Introspection is something I had to learn, and then proactively asking for feedback is also something I had to learn. Then I'm actually sharing the biggest weakness. Is the biggest weakness or challenge that I actively manage is procrastination. It roars in when particular task is too difficult. In the past, the intensity of a deadline has jolted me out of it. But when I push work close to the boundary, I am not satisfied with the quality. So I am sharing that I'm already working on it, or in the past, deadlines have helped me jolt through. But then when I'm pushing things towards the edge of the deadline, then I'm not showing up with my best work. But here's how I actively manage this in three ways. So you see how I am being very positive focused, very future focused while bringing in systems and frameworks. That is a critical part of this answer. So internally, I break big tasks into smaller actionable chunks. Publicly, I hold myself accountable by sharing status messages with my team. And three, I set weekly meetings with stakeholders to share progress. Accountability has been immensely helpful, and I will bring that skill to the team when I come in at this role. So, you see how I am talking about introspection, sharing my biggest weakness, and which is a real weakness. And then I'm talking about three ways that I'm actively managing it. Again, going back to the rule of thirds, right? Sharing three things that you can do. That's how I would navigate this particular question of the weakness. Now, there are many other questions that I have exact frameworks and examples for in this document. I will talk last for the last time. I think if you are here from the beginning, I think I mentioned it twice or thrice already, but bear with me if you've been here from the beginning. This is a document that you can get access to for free, completely complimentary, when you sign up on beyondgrad.com. On the homepage, you will see a form that you can fill, name, email, take me to the vault. And in that, you will, once you confirm your email, you will get access to this Google Drive where I have multiple different folders, and each folder has examples on frameworks and systems on how you can get better at the job search. This particular one is under the folder interview answers. And there you can see like common questions. So storytelling techniques, 10 interview screening Q&A with examples. That's where you will find this particular document. But you can go into all the other folders and really get some of the best resources, if I may say so myself, on the job search and how you can get better at it and find the role that you're looking for. If you have questions, I'm going to take a beat for a minute and see if there are any live questions here. If not, then we can end the session. You can get access to this resource amongst other resources, this Google Drive on my homepage. And I wish you all the best for the job search. If you have any questions for me in this last 1 minute or so, add them in the comment section of wherever you're joining us from. So either YouTube or LinkedIn. If you want the question to be anonymous, you can just write in brackets anonymous and share your question. I'll just read the part out without bringing it into the live session here. There's always a lag between life and me prompting people to ask a question live and the stream going. So there's always a 1 minute lag. Oh, when I said that, I found that question. All right, I'm going to bring this up. Such an important topic. Tricky interview questions really test clarity of thought, not just knowledge. Liked how you broke them down into simple, practical steps, making them much more easier to understand and apply. Looking forward to using these techniques. Thank you. Less of a question, more of a takeaway, which is great as well. So, if you don't have a question, feel free to add your takeaway, and I would love to bring that up. Thanks so much, Gayatri. Hope this helps you or a loved one who is going through a job search currently. Awesome. I'm going to share that prompt again, see if there are any final takeaways or questions for me. Okay, another takeaway here. Wonderful session. Thank you for your efforts. Appreciate you showing up live. I will see. I don't think that I have any other question or a comment. So it was thank you so much for whoever attended live, was present, and was able to ask a question or a takeaway. I appreciate you showing up. I wish everybody who's live or watching this recording the best of luck with your job search and hope you find a lot of value in the resources that I have shared here. I'm going to come up with a new program pretty soon, maybe in a month or two, that takes in all the work that I have done with my one on one clients and then add that in a product that is a bit more scalable. If you are a senior or a staff individual contributor in the US and want support in your job search, I have a one on one coaching program that includes a lot of the training material that I've shared here today, plus other videos and stuff that I do not cover here, plus AI prompts, which has been extremely beneficial to all my mentees. And then I have 15 one on one calls with this person to kind of help them navigate their job search, especially people who are looking at roles that are about $200,000 or are senior and staff individual contributors in the US. Those are the ones that I've had the most success with. And I have a lot of examples to share. So thank you for thank you for being here. And while I say that, I think there is a question I wanted to ask you about the questions that a candidate can ask at the end of the interview. How would you ask different questions to the hiring manager and a recruiter? Great question. First off, again, if you get access to this Google Drive, within the Google Drive, you will see that in the interviews folder, there is a questions to ask the company. And I have an entire cheat sheet that you can use with multiple questions that you can ask based on the round that you are in or the person that you're talking to or the theme. So before the interview process to the recruiter, questions about the role, questions about the team, reviewing the manager, you can ask all of these different questions. I would ask different questions to the recruiter versus the hiring manager. Kind of obvious, but to the recruiter, I would ask, how will the recruiting process look like? Why is this role open? What are the parts of my experience that I can bring to the table? So here are some prompts here, right? Which is, why was this role created? For the next round with the hiring manager, what are some things that I should bring up that will impress them? What will the recruiting process look like from start to finish? You can even talk about, hey, what is the number one priority of this group? The reason why I do not mention this question here is because some recruiters might have the answer. Some recruiters will say, oh, that's just something that a hiring manager would be able to cover. So, that's why you want to ask recruiters more questions about the process, what you can do to impress the hiring manager because they want you to clear interviews. Companies want you to be the answer to their prayers. So if you can align early, that will help you. And then you can also ask about why the role was created. That can give you some more information as well. To the hiring manager, here are three questions that you can ask. What's the hardest thing you have shared with your team? What goals has your manager set for you over the next 6 months? How can this hire help you achieve them? And then, if you are somebody who's looking to grow faster in your career at this season in your life, then you can ask about what the ideal frequency of one on one meetings is for this person and how much of those are divided into project discussion and mentoring. I think the best question for me from this is question number two. So, talking about the priority of the hiring manager and priority of this role, that will give you the most amount of information. But if you have more time to ask questions, I want you to have at least three questions in your back pocket to be able to show or share. Hope that answers the question that you had, Sai. And yeah, I'm glad that you asked that question. That is something that you want to prep for as well. Okay, moving back. I got another question here is should you always walk through the whole resume or just what is applicable for the job you're applying for? That's the obvious answer, Nedra, which is just walk through the things that are applicable for this role. Now, a lot of it would be in, you would answer anyways in the tell me about yourself question. Maybe you will answer it in why do you want to work here. Sometimes they do ask, "Hey, can you walk me through through your resume?" In that case, there is an example here that you can look at. I would start with an impact statement. So, hey, I'm so and so. I have driven engineering teams to optimize critical systems in cloud products, delivering 30% faster performance, 20% cost savings. You want to start with an impact statement. You can share your career growth quickly. So I went from senior engineer to staff engineer to the director of this role, and now I am managing X number of people. I am fluent in these tools, and then what I would do is conclude with two two of your most significant impact. I know I say three here. There is a tendency for it to be get longer. So if you've not practiced, I would share one or two of your top impact metrics to end this answer. But that's walk me through your resume. That's for a specific question. For the question that you asked, if they are asking about tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here, then you want to focus really smartly on things that are applicable for your job and not really your whole experience. I know what you might be feeling, right? I have 14 years of engineering experience myself. It's hard to kind of summarize everything, but you can always leave like breadcrumbs. So you can say, hey, I'm somebody who has experience in fluid dynamics, 1D physics based simulation, and then 3D CFD simulation. I think for this role, the 1D aspect is the one that is most applicable. So here are the top three impacts that I've created in that particular vertical. That way, you are able to give them breadcrumbs. So you're able to give them a high level overview of all the work that you have done, but then hone in on the one that is most applicable. Hope that answers that question, and I'm thank you for asking. Since I had a couple questions here, I'll wait one more minute to see if there are any other questions or follow-ups from people so far, and then we'll end this session. All right. We are at the 1 hour mark. I think I timed it well, even though I had some technical issues getting in and got late because of that. Thank you so much for attending this session. Interviewing is a core competency of mine. I've helped a lot of people interview at top companies like all the Mang firms, as well as top firms in different industries, be it automotive, healthcare, fintech, etc. This has been a lot of work in improving myself. So, a last thing I will share is the reason why I'm able to share all of this is as a partner of the consulting company that I was doing my 9 to 5 in, I had to convert a lot of our technical experience into business outcomes to get six-figure projects from these top automotive companies. So I learned that there is a different way that you have to communicate in an interview setting or a sales meeting setting as compared to how you communicate day to day in your workplace. I hope I've been able to kind of share some of the frameworks and behind the scenes of this interviewing techniques, especially for screening questions. So, to answer this final question, where's the link to your documents? Go to my homepage, beyondgrad.com, sign in with your name and email. You will be asked to confirm your email because I want people to double opt in and I want to avoid spam bots. Once you do that, you will get access to this entire Google Drive of all my best resources and infographics. So, in there, if you go into interviewing, you will find the link to this document as well as other very helpful documents that will help with the job search. On that note, I'll end the stream. Thank you so much for everybody joining in. We have a couple more sessions this week, which are with other top professionals, and I'll see you next week for a solo session. Bye.